And welcome to Generación Latina, your host here, Carolina Peña. It's been a while. I know we've been gone for a good part of the summer, but we are back. And we're starting with a bang because the two students that I'm going to introduce to you are not only admirable, but they're leaders in our community. They stand out and they represent a cause that affects not only a lot of your peers, maybe some of you out there, but it's very important that we focus on the next topic because it really will be an issue that will impact not only our neighbors and our communities, but it speaks a lot about who we are as a nation, who we are as a community. So I would love for you all to pay attention for the next 30 minutes. We're going to discuss JSA. I know some of you know who he is and what that is, but if you don't, stay tuned. Thank you, Julio. Thank you, Francisco, for joining us. Julio, well, first of all, what is JSA?
Well, JSA began as a group of students who came together for a common cause. The cause was my friend Jorge Steven Acuna, his initials, of course, JSA, who sadly had became the center of a big, issue. The issue was him and his family were being detained, on track for being deported to Colombia, a country that he had not known since he was 7, 8 years old. He had come to America with his parents on a legal visa, went to school, got good grades, had great aspirations, to become a doctor and everything. And this all struck a chord with us because we were all students, we were all, aspiring to be something great in our lives. And, for such a good friend of ours to be denied of that because of where he was born, just struck just an anger in us and caused us to do something about it.
Right. Just to clarify, you said legal. He came on a legal visa.
He did. He actually came on as a political refugee.
Okay.
And through a bad lawyer that got debarred later in his career, was denied the ability to stay in the country. So ever since then, his parents did not want to limit his. He had already assimilated into our culture, so there was no point in going back to a country he never really, associated with.
That's right. And just as a bit of a background, you were sitting in this same chair, just months ago, right? It was literally a week after Jorge Steven Acuna had been detained, and you and your friends rallied a whole community just to help, get him out of detention, just advocate on his behalf. He obviously was detained and couldn't communicate, but I know, you were here, and then hours after we completed our in-studio interview, he was released. Right. So what amazed me was that you and how quickly your actions had an impact, just the change that you brought within hours, really. Talk to us about, actually, before we get into those details, I know, Francisco, tell me a little bit more about how you got involved.
So the way I got involved with JSA was actually a night, during just being home and on the computer. And I remember my mom had gone to church that particular weekend, and she had come back talking about, did you hear about this kid who's been detained? And I said, another one. No, I haven't, and I didn't pay much attention to it. So I get on Twitter, and it's the middle of the night. It must have been like 9-something, and I see all these hashtags: JSA, support, help, and I replied to one of them. And I say, hey, what's this all about? To a friend of mine. She returns my call and tells me, if you want to find out more about it, come to this address. We're having a meeting right now. We need all the help we can get. So me being, into the whole movement already, and being myself a dreamer and thinking, what got this guy into this deal? Why is everyone trying to help him out? I show up to where everyone's meeting, and this is day 3 of the movement. I don't think the initials were yet created to what it was going to be. It was in the basement. There was 15 of us, and Julio standing in the middle, and there's Post-its everywhere, and organizing, and people on one phone here, and 3 people on the computer over there, and a lawyer at the door, and it was, and I got hooked. I got jumped in, and I had some background experience from it because of my own life and how to deal with certain situations, and being an illegal alien, and how to go about protecting yourself and trying to protect your family as well. I jumped in and I fell right in, and Julio and his friends created this environment where it was welcoming. Any type of help was welcoming, and anything from an individual personal point of view to an idea that was completely outrageous, such as having a concert in the middle of the summer, it was acceptable, and that's how we went into it.
So that's great. No, you guys essentially, you this group was formed to help Steven get, Jorge Steven out of detention. Right. He gets out within a week, and the group doesn't die.
No.
If anything, it grew very, very strong. Tell us, what is the current mission of what you're trying to do, of JSA?
Right. Well, our current mission is to empower youth, Latino youth, as well as youth of other cultures, to that want to further their education, and further their family values as well. We want to empower them by educating them on certain issues that, are important to not only, a certain demographic, but to our culture as a whole, such as the Maryland Dream Act, to getting out there and voting. So we're also registering voters as well.
Mm-hmm. Tell us more about that. Exactly, how do you accomplish these efforts? You kind of briefly mentioned it.
So through the movement of JSA and those 5 days that we went through in that basement and organizing, we found out in a very indirect way that we don't know anything about politics. We're the next people who are going to vote, and we don't know one thing about it, or how to move within the system and get what we want out of the government. Because essentially, we hear our lives in schools and in college. The government's here to serve you and to help the people. It's stated in our Declaration of Independence, and we found out that we didn't know anything about it. So here we are, trying to get our ideas together and organizing and educating ourselves a little bit. And we figured that it was more than the immigration issue at the point. It was more than Jorge. It was something that was impacting our community, and that we needed to wake those people up. We looked at the numbers, we looked at the data. How many youth go to Montgomery College right after high school? For XY reason, whether it's economic, whether it's grades, whether it's their legal status, it's huge. It's a huge influx of students who are staying local, who don't know much about politics, and who are voting. So we had to convey that message through them, and that's who we relied our voices into. Educating these youth, making, for lack of a better word, politics hip. That's why the JSA movement had so much momentum. We made it cool to know about politics. We made it interesting to know who John Delaney is and who the runners of your district are. Do you even know what a district was? Right. What district do you belong to? Who do you lobby to if you want to get things done in your neighborhood? Things like that.
Right. Tell us more about that, actually. Looking back, just kind of what things have you organized? What kind of effect or even response do you get from, and turnout, do you get from the community? Is this working? Are politics boring? Or how do you make them hip?
Well, I mean, at the beginning, when we're trying to get Jorge out of detention, it was just a big, almost a wall in front of us. We didn't know who to go to. We didn't know who to email. We didn't know who to call. But a very important figure that came around was a lawyer from Casa, Maryland, who volunteered pro bono to represent Jorge and his family. Okay. So she actually directed us towards figures in politics that we could actually go to and lobby, such as Senator Van Carden, Senator Barbara McCloskey, our own Congressman Chris Van Hollen. Through our rally in Rockville Town Center, the city council showed up. We went to Mr. Van Hollen's office to lobby, and through all those efforts, letters were sent to ICE, and Jorge was let out.
Well, and if I remember correctly, I spoke with that lawyer, and what she was telling me is that ICE was calling her, letting her know, get this kid out of here. Like, we're getting
right.
Too many calls. This is too much. And that's just to say, only speaks to the impact you guys have had, the organizing, the momentum that this has had. So, absolutely great. I think you guys are not only an example, but you really kind of zeroed in to some of the main problems that we have currently in our youth, which we're passive. We don't care about politics. Yet they affect, some of these things affect us in our everyday lives, whether we're going to be able to afford college, exactly. Whether we can go to college, our peers going to get deported or not. So obviously the main issue here is not only what JSA is doing, but what kind of impact you're creating, and not only in our communities, but just in your own individual lives. So tell me about what kind of growth you've even seen, what kind of change you've seen in your own lives due to your involvement in JSA. And I understand you both are leaders in the movement, but there's dozens of other students that are getting involved in such a positive movement. So tell me a little bit more about this juice.
So it's something that it's almost hard to assimilate and almost understand if you don't live in a household where it's almost like you see this role of leadership throughout your life, whether it's your mom or dad, and you never realize when you're going to be in those shoes until something dramatic happens in your life. From my personal experience, like I was telling earlier, my father became severely ill when I was fairly young, at 18, 17. So I had to do a lot of drastic changes in my life that made me grow up in a very short amount of time. When I got to JSA, I saw that what I had gone through and those changes that I had made, whether it was dealing with lawyers because there was a house payment not made, dealing with banks, little things about life. These are the skills that got me to be where I'm at now and to be proactive within the JSA movement. So I saw a generation, my generation, being pushed down by society, directly or indirectly, and no one was doing anything about it. Here you had all these dreamer kids sitting on their couches complaining about their lives, but no one's getting up and doing anything about it. And why should you? You have no voice, you have no vote, you have no wings to fly. But JSA provided that. JSA gave me that outlet to channel my emotion and my story and give people a picture of what it's like to be here under an illegal status and still trying to make it and still not have a criminal record and still not fulfill the Hispanic stereotype.
Right.
Right. How many people do we know out there who think, oh, he must be Hispanic, he has a kid and he's 18 and he's not in college? I mean, it's horrible because I come from a background in my family, in my country. My family's originally from El Salvador, where my parents are college educated. And they did not expect me to have kids at the age of 20, or drop out of college. So here I am in a country where there's plenty of opportunity, where I call it my country, and I can't get it done. Mm-hmm. And, so I had to do something about it. And JSA channeled that and allowed me to grow into a better person. And not only that, but strategically put your efforts into actions.
Right.
And that's something that I think life teaches you on later on, and we've been lucky enough to learn it over the summer with a really cool group of people and that I call friends.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And to see the results of your actions.
Yeah.
So vividly.
Definitely.
Julio, what about for you?
Well, for me, it was almost a slightly different viewpoint from people such as Francisco, where I was born and raised in this country, and this wasn't an issue that I was concerned about at all. Growing up, going through middle school, you hear about news about millions of families getting deported every year, but it never hits you until it actually affects you. And for me, it came through one of my best friends all through high school and college, where he's going through it. You never think about that happening to one of your close friends. So after I got educated about, after everything was happening, it really struck a chord with me that something wrong, something unjust was happening. And I think the greatest, what made me mature the most was that I was doing something to better not just my life, but people that, not me, people that are affected by something, and that when you're helping people when you're helping people through doing things that won't benefit yourself, I feel like you mature a lot quicker.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
absolutely. You have nothing essentially for your own self to gain.
Right.
It's really for others, and I think that's very admirable. We are going to continue the conversation with you guys for the next segment, and we're going to talk about their uphill battle, which is the November 6th election, and educating this community about the reality of the Maryland DREAM Act. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Turning a 20-foot wall into a canvas takes vision. So will getting into college. I've got what it takes. So do you.
And we're back here at Generación Latina talking to the JSA movement leaders, and we continue our discussion on the Maryland DREAM Act. Francisco. First of all, tell us what is the Maryland Dream Act and what's the status of it right now leading up to the November 6th election?
So the Maryland Dream Act itself, it's a law that was passed actually about a year ago, and that went into referendum for reevaluation. It specifically mentions that it would allow to professionally accept in-state tuition for those kids or those kids who are undocumented, who have no legal status in the United States. Now, that only applies to the state of Maryland, and it only works to those kids who only qualify if you have attended a high school, a Montgomery County high school or a Maryland in-state high school. You have paid taxes, or your parents have proof of paying taxes through an 18 number. And after that, you have graduated from the high school. You have to attend a community college for 2 years, and then you can apply to a in-state school, an in-state college, and pay the in-state tuition. Now, that doesn't guarantee you a spot in the college, and nor does it give you any type of federal or in-state help in terms of paying the college. So to put in terms of numbers, if I am a freshman applying to the University of Maryland, in average I'm paying about $8,000 a semester. I'm a legal freshman, went to high school here, that's what I'm paying. You know, there's thousands of kids applying freshman year, you might get in, you might get not. Now let's put it into the other side of things. Here I am, the same individual, coming out of high school with the same grades, but I'm undocumented. So if I do get accepted, I will have to pay $26,000 a semester. Mind you that I cannot receive any type of federal help or in-state help already. This is prior to the Maryland Dream Act.
Okay.
If the Maryland Dream Act does pass, that same student that will be going as a freshman will not. They will be going as a junior, and they will be able to pay in-state tuition, which is about $8,000. Now, that same individual cannot or will not receive federal or in-state help to cover those $8,000. So the likelihood of that individual coming from a very low house income, it's very high. And for them to gather up those $8,000, it's already tough enough to do it per semester. Now imagine if the Maryland Dream Act referendum doesn't pass. That individual would have to pay $26,000 every semester to attend an in-state college and have a diploma from there.
Okay.
That's where the law stands right now. Right now it stands where we got the language on the ballot from it, which is completely negative and we can't change it. If you're not aware of it, it states that allowing in-state tuition for illegal aliens. It's around the lines of what the ballot says on it. So it's a very negative connotation, and that's where it stands right now. So for someone who's never heard of the Maryland Dream Act, but has heard of immigration and how immigrants are bad for the country, the first thing that they're going to think when they read that thing is, no, why would I want to do that? Little do they know it's affecting their neighbor. It's affecting the kid that their kid is going to school with, the kid who their kid plays soccer with, the kid who has the same potential and same length and desire to learn will not be able to. Not because of a criminal background, not because of anything else, but because of a simple, unjust law that doesn't allow these hardworking kids. Because keep in mind that if it does pass, these are really like creme of la creme. These are really the students who have not slacked in school, the students who have made sure to stay out of trouble, the students who really want to get that degree and benefit, whether it's themselves, their families, or their communities. These are people who really want to become a productive member of society and felt like they're part of it. These are people who have probably been here years, who call this place their country.
Okay. All right. I see the point you're making. Now, we've heard a lot of opposition, of course, and I want to bring some of that to light, given that, I don't necessarily obviously there's two students representing one entire viewpoint on this. So while this is difficult for me, I'm going to just kind of present some opposing issues with this, and maybe you guys could respond to it, right? So the question I would have then is, why would Maryland taxpayers have to, in a sense, foot the bill for students that are undocumented?
I'll take that one. Well, there's a big misconception with that opposing view, and it's that these illegal immigrants or undocumented people aren't paying taxes themselves. So why should law-abiding, tax-paying citizens pay for their education? Now, what they overlook is the fact that the Maryland Dream Act only allows in-state tuition for kids who have graduated high school, graduated 2 years from a community college, and have filed or have their parents file for income taxes. So these are kids that have paid taxes and don't get anything in return. And then they still got to cover that $8,000 for in-state tuition without federal or state help through scholarships or grants of that sort. So the point of the matter is that they're paying for their own education and they're just receiving, a just in-state tuition for a state that they've already paid taxes to. So I find that the view that you're paying for an illegal immigrant's education very untrue.
Okay.
To say the least.
And to put that into a more realistic case, I'll tell you my personal situation where I file taxes for the income taxes every day. Every year, and I'm entitled to pay taxes to the government. Now, keep in mind that they know my status, they know where I live, but they allow me to pay these taxes to a random pool of money that I never receive or get back. This is whether I go to school, whether I get sick or not. I mentioned earlier that my dad was sick when I was younger. Everything that we had to pay for his illness and his medicine is completely out of pocket. But yet we still pay taxes yearly. Ever since I have any type of income, whether it's mowing lawns or, when you're younger, you work. You want to get money, you're in high school. I would say I had a very normal life in the States. I consider it as my country. And here I am paying taxes now that I understand the full concept of taxes and how it works in the real world. But I'm not receiving anything back. So where's that money going to? Who is receiving that check? Because I know that I don't see it. So it's a very invalid argument that I think people make in saying, well, I'm paying for your kid's education, or you're taking somebody's spot. Well, let's look at the facts. These are going to be kids who are applying in their junior year of college, who are really fighting to be there, and who will have most likely try to pay as many taxes as they can and try to make everything right. So how is it not fair? Who are we to deny an opportunity to these hardworking people who want to remain here, who want to make the country better? And that's where I think my opposition goes towards that point.
Okay. Okay, point well made. Now, what about those who are saying that if you essentially open up the doors for even more students, again, undocumented students, to come in to graduate, and that they would still not have the ability to find work because they're undocumented. So where does that leave them? All that money that was spent, in college time, what do you do with that? Is it a waste of time?
Well, I think it's not, because in our current, that argument is based on our labor market not being, it's not being tapped into. We don't have enough jobs. They're not going to be able to find jobs. They can't apply to jobs. Well, we know that now through the DACA initiative that President Obama signed, these illegal immigrants can file for work permits and actually work now. Okay. So if you look into our current economy, places that are lacking of work are sectors such as education and nursing, where a 4-year degree from an in-state school would definitely help people, these illegal immigrants who want to further their education, actually fill these spots and help out the common good of our country. So denying them of that right to further their education, and better themselves and everyone else is just biting the hand that feeds you in a way. I think.
But then what about all the other people that are qualified, that have the preparation, and that are still not getting jobs? Wouldn't that just make the market even more difficult for those that are
I think that it's a very valuable point to make, but it's kind of like going into predicting the future. You can say that you're going to have XYZ amount of kids who are going to benefit from this. But do we really know if they're going to be able to graduate? Do we really know if these kids are going to become better members of society? And we like to think so that they will. So what I like to say to the people who think that way and saying, oh, well, you just make the job market a lot harder, it's not going to work out. Well, look at it this way. How many jobs are out there that Americans don't want to do? And who's doing them? Now, when you come from a family, my family, where you've seen a dad working a desk, and then you migrate to a different nation, and you see your dad working, sweeping floors or cleaning bathrooms, you know that's a guy that'll take any job they can take to make their family survive and be at peace. I think that's what America is lacking of, and it's why we fail to remember. So that same student that you might say might graduate and might benefit from the Energy Mac might not find a job right after, that might be the next entrepreneurial innovator in your community. That might be the next person who says, I saw my dad work so hard for so many years with a college education. Now that I have one and I speak the language, who am I not to take an opportunity in a place where I can establish my own business? I mean, it takes a lot of courage to establish your own business. And if you look at the statistics just in the state of Maryland, the majority of people who open up businesses are the incoming immigrants. People who know nothing about business 101. And yet their kids want to further their education and help those families out, help those parents out. So the argument is there. The working market is going to be a lot tougher. Well, or it's going to be a lot more productive, like Julio says. I mean, how many people do you not know nowadays who need you to speak Spanish, need you to speak more than one language?
And more than anything, that's what we're about. This country's about competition.
Exactly.
Bring on the competition. Wouldn't that make you even more competitive, sharper, right? I mean, that's what I would say. Lastly, one thing that you always hear from this group is that education is a privilege. I'm sorry, education is a right. Post-secondary education, right? So going to college. Is that really true? Is it really a right? Isn't it a privilege? Isn't it a privilege for those that have complied with the law, that have stood in line and waited to get their immigration papers many, many years and have come in, and now they have the privilege to attend university? What would you say?
Well, I don't think we should punish, students who have known no other country but this as their own, who pledge allegiance to our flag, who pay their income taxes, who have goals in mind and can't reach them because of where they were born in some far-off land where they don't even remember. Denying them of that right just isn't American to me, and that's why I support the DREAM Act the way I do, because even though it won't affect me directly, seeing fellow Americans struggle with the fact that they can't pay their way through college, it's just something that strikes a chord with me, and I don't think it's right that putting education into fiscal matters, into a matter of whether you can afford it or not, it's not the America that I want to see growing up. So.
And for me, it's a little deviated from that point of view, because although I feel fully Americanized and part of this nation, I understand the concept of America, and it is competition, like you said, and I believe in a system where education is completely free as long as you qualify for it. So flipping the car a little bit on the students and saying, how much do you want it? Because that's what life has taught me up until this point. How much do I want to get off my couch and make something happen out of this? How much do I want to push the JSA movement and make people hear my voice and my opinion and change the law? So I believe in a system where education is completely free, even higher education, but only if you qualify for it. Only if you can make it. Only if you pass those tests. Only if you make those certifications.
Chico's, the last 15 seconds, what would you want our audience to do the next coming weeks?
I would want our audience to go out this November 6th and vote for the Maryland DREAM Act, not just because it might not help you, not because, now you know what it does. Now you know that it's going to help our community as a whole, and hopefully soon as our country as a whole.
Definitely. And you people have that chance, the opportunity to give those people like myself, undocumented kids, a voice, a chance to express themselves, a chance to go out to the world and prove to the world how much they want to be here, how much of an American they really are. So on November 6th, go and vote for it. It really will make a change in your community and just in the state, as a progressive state of Maryland. I mean, we're a nation built by immigrants, made by immigrants, run by immigrants. Let's not forget how smart you want the next generation of immigrants to be if you want the country to move forward.
Estoy muy de acuerdo, and thank you both for joining us. I really, really appreciate your time coming here today, educating us. I hope that our audience will continue to dig in to this issue and also support them. That's hashtag JSA, right? And they're also on Facebook. Let's continue to build a community on these American values that these kids have talked about. And if you disagree, well, we welcome that. That's what this is for, a discussion. So thank you for joining us, and we'll be back next week on Generación Latina.